Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, and expecting different results. It's a cliche quote, I know, but it's one that perfectly encapsulates the character of Cinder Fool.
You think you're entitled to everything just because you've suffered, but suffering isn't enough!
Debuting in the very first episode of RWBY, Cinder has always been the most active threat to the RWBY protagonists, or Team Good Guys as I'll call them. Despite being sidelined for most of Volume 1, her later appearance at the end of the volume, and then prominence in Volumes 2 and 3, displayed her as cool and calculated. Her flashback sequence that involved recruiting Emerald and Mercury show that she's been like this for a while. I think all of us can agree that in Volume 8, one of the most interesting episodes from a lore perspective was Midnight, the episode that finally showed us Cinder's backstory. While some weren't a fan of how simple it was, I think it was perfect for the character we've come to know as Cinder Fool, as I feel it etches the writing on the wall. Cinder Fool is destined to fail.
I don't want to have to run now.
That's all you'll ever do.
It is my belief that in the entirety of RWBY, Cinder is one of the most consistently written characters. Some would chalk this up to no character development at all, saying she's stagnant or one note. Yes, but actually no. Some call it having no development, but the way I see it, Cinder has been growing and learning. It's her motivation of wanting to obtain power that has stayed the same. Her development comes with how she intends to achieve these goals. I understand why some people aren't satisfied with her reasons, and at one point of time I was in the same boat. Volume 4 was this time. It brought about an interesting change with her being injured, but as we all know, that didn't last very long, and it very quickly ended up back where we started. In Volumes 4 and 5, Cinder focused on recovery, but at this point, she had made 0 mistakes. You see, her success in the fall of Beacon made her cocky. We didn't see this right away because of her injury, but it was clear with her rushed plan with Raven Bronwyn. She believed she had everything mapped out, even though it only took 1% of the time to figure it out compared to the elaborate Fall of Beacon plan. It was rushed, it was sloppy, and she didn't even properly identify the Maiden, and she left herself vulnerable. She may have killed Vernal, rest in peace, no one remembers who you are, but she failed at obtaining the Spring Maiden's powers, and she plunged to what could have been her death. Raven was the more skilled and cunning Maiden, and honestly, the fixation Cinder had with betraying them and focusing entirely on the Maiden and the Vault, this is my headcanon as to why she completely ignored Ruby Rose in that final fight, because her fixation was on the Vault, was on the Maiden. So she lost. For the first time since obtaining the Full Maiden's power, she failed. What did she do when she got back on her feet? She continued her mission. She didn't wallow in pity and defeat like against Ruby Rose. She continued to walk her path in search of 3 things. The relics for Salem, power for herself and to beat the Maiden she couldn't beat, obviously, and revenge on Ruby Rose for her injury in the first place. She needed the next Maiden, and if she could, she would kill Ruby Rose on the way there. Knowing that Team Good Guys would have to be aware of the relics and maidens at this point of time, because Ozpin had returned, she seeks them via Little Miss Malachite. Bumping into Neapolitan was just a happy accident, especially when she convinces her to join forces. But this is why I think she got as far as she did. She manipulated and utilized the strengths of others. Emerald, Mercury, Neo, Roman. Without them, the fall of Beacon would not have succeeded. This is proven in volumes 6 and 7. Thanks to Neo, she's able to present the relic to Salem. But she herself can't get the task done. She failed at stealing Freya's Winter Maiden powers and ended up going to Penny. Then, even with the backup of Neo and Emerald, another rushed plan ended in failure. All of this gets thrown in her face by Watts, who gives her the lashing she well and truly needed. Although his roast didn't lead to the desired outcome. I think that this lashing out against her made her open her eyes, but it more so made her realize that she can't succeed alone. Both of Watts' main points were both moments of time where she was alone. So, what she learned was, don't do it by yourself. Even with the end goal of getting revenge on those who wronged her, she knows she can make use of those people. Hence, she convinces Watts and Neo to assist her in a new plan. Thanks to using Jin, they're able to make a proper plan and foil Team Good Guys. Without Penny's sacrifice, Cinder very well would have obtained the Winter Maiden's power. So, while not succeeding in that regard, Cinder has succeeded in providing Salem with 2 of the 4 relics, installing trust into her leader. Trust which will only grow now that Watts and Hazel are gone. All Salem has left in her council is Mercury, who's bound to leave, Tyrion, and Cinder. But all this is for naught. The downfall of Miss Fall is all rooted in the way she was raised. Thanks to the abuse she endured as she was raised, thanks to the fact she was never able to form any proper attachment to anyone, and the one person she did have a connection with betrayed her in her eyes. This has set up the foundation of failure. It's sad, it's cruel, but it's Cinder. She is unable to form a proper connection to anyone. The closest we've seen her is maybe with Emerald, but even then, I feel like Emerald will end up being like everyone else, just fodder for Cinder to use. A means to an end, a tool to be used and discarded. She will eventually be left with no one. Meanwhile, Team Ruby will continue to grow and get stronger together. Honestly, if Salem wasn't a factor, something tells me that Cinder would gladly take her place. The power of the maidens and the power to control Grimm? Who says she wouldn't? Who says she wouldn't throw herself into the black pool and turn herself into something like Salem? She's already part Grimm now, so why not go all the way? At this point, with the blood on her hands, with her constant betrayals, with her history and life stretched out before us, she is destined to remain evil for the rest of her days. She was thrown into the deep end and learnt how to swim by using others as lifeboats. This is why she will fail. Cinder Downfall will meet her destiny. Failure no matter what.